What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to 8 Cubes. We were on a little bit of a hiatus as Lamby was sick, and then Twitch drops blew us out of the water. Huge shout out to the Marvel Snap team for the Twitch drops. Lamby, do you have anything to say about that before we get into the show?
I think since this is the second Twitch drops season, I can now really confirm that like Twitch drops are amazing. I think no streamer does not like Twitch drops. Everyone loves Twitch drops, so I'm really glad they did a second round of that. And of course, last but not least, before we open the show is I fell sick, and now we're back. We're fine. We're all good. Chat.
You're good,
guys.
You're good. Okay.
We're good.
All right. So we wanted to open the show off with a sort of a unique topic, I feel like, because a lot of what I focus on is like, what's the best deck? And a lot of what Lamby focuses on is like, what's the best deck? So I know there are people out there who don't have Elsa Bloodstone. What I wanted to know is, what's the best non-Elsa deck? And this is not just for budget purposes. This is for purposes of sort of figuring out, like, what exactly is this metagame? And I think there are probably two contenders for best non-Elsa deck, and it's Phoenix Force and Classic Shuri. And neither of them, I would say, are well above tier 2. There's some solid, reasonable Black Knight-ish stuff, Hela-ish stuff, but none of this strikes me as particularly consistent. So Phoenix Force and Shuri tend to be where my head would be at with this. I think Shuri, of course, very straightforward. Shuri, Red Skull Taskmaster, it can beat a lot of stuff. And Phoenix Force, again, sort of straightforward, but a little less straightforward. You either have your Phoenix Force game plan or your Shuri Nimrod Boom Boom game plan. Those are sort of where my head is at. It is interesting that I think when you talk about two decks that are non-Elsa decks, both of them run Shuri. I don't know exactly what that says, but I am glad she rotated down into Series 3 back when they were still doing series drops. What are your thoughts on Elsa-less decks?
So the thing is, I agree with both your picks, right? The Shuri Sauron deck, right? The one without Elsa, I think that one is consistent. I also think the Phoenix Force one, even though I'm not a big fan of Phoenix Force at all, it's like one of those decks that like if it draws the thing, it's still like it beats most things, you know. So
it's Galactus.
And another thing I want to mention is like you mentioned the Black Knight deck. I do think that Black Knight deck sort of controlled Hela discard deck has like potential. It's like fun, a little bit casino, and if once again a bit like the Phoenix Force deck, if it draws that curve, I think a lot of the meta decks will still like have to like flip versus Hela, and like see who gets the higher stats in the higher lanes, that kind of thing. So I would say sadly Elsa decks are the best, but like if you want to play a non-Elsa deck, Shuri Sauron, Phoenix Force, and some fun Hela Black Knight deck is actually a potential contender.
Yeah, it's frustrating because it's like these are not the most dynamic decks in Marvel Snap. Those are the Elsa decks. They're extremely dynamic and fluid, and you can do a lot of things. And in Phoenix Force, it's very much like it's Galactus, right? That's why I mentioned that earlier, because it's like, all right, I'm going to do the thing, and you're going to figure out if you can beat it or not. And if you can't beat it, I'm going to collect my 1 cube when I snap. And if you can beat it, I'm probably going to lose big because I snap every time I do the thing. It's an interesting deck. I really like Phoenix Force, but I feel like it requires a lot of discipline that maybe a lot of players might not have. I have a fun time playing it every time I play it, but it's just like then you get like 4 games in a row where your deck just falls apart and you're like, I can't play this crap anymore. And then you get like 4 games in a row where you have everything and you snap and they just leave, and it's like this is not doing it.
Yeah. It's not really a climbing deck, and also like similar vein, the Hela Casino deck is a bit like, you know, if you draw everything, you just go, it's so smooth. But then when you draw like the wrong end of the deck first, all the sixes and everything, you just like look at your hand and just pass. So it's sad that it's like these kind of decks are like the secondary option, but you know, that's why that's how much Elsa has warped the game.
So let's jump off of that. You say Elsa has warped the game. Let's talk about that. What's your thoughts on Elsa right now?
Right, so the thing about Elsa is initially, I think even for us, we thought that like this card would be the best in like a bounce shell in like decks that have like a lot of like return to hand mechanics, cheap 1-cost cards. Then we moved on like a few days after, a week after, and we realized you can literally play Elsa in like any deck, right?
Yep.
Any deck that has like a Jeff, a Kitty, a Vision, things that move out of lanes, or like, you know, even Brood Apps played Elsa for a period, So I feel like Elsa is just the most splashable good card right now. Like it's even more splashable than Legion, like especially when it comes to like current play rates and everything. So Elsa is just like okay. So firstly, I saw a tweet somewhere about like on average Elsa gets like what 210, 211 of
Yeah.
stats on any given game, that kind of thing. That is like monster stats, right? And it's not meant to be that strong. I mean, I guess they didn't realize that it was gonna be that strong, but like it is really effectively like even Loki decks right now. People prioritize playing Elsa on 2 over things like Collector, Angela sometimes even, So like Elsa is literally the premium 2-drop of the game right now, and for very good reason.
The thing is that in order to make Elsa get to her full potential, the only real deck building sacrifices you have to make are like you have to want to play Jeff and Kitty. And that's it.
Which is not a bad thing. It's
actually
a bad
it's
thing.
like, oh my god, look at all the deck building sacrifices I have to make. I played Jeff and Kitty.
I have no choice but to play Jeff.
Oh god, I have to play Jeff? Yeah, and so like that's sort of the main thing, right? Like she gets to like these enormous numbers even if you don't do that, and doing that is such a small cost for most decks which were already doing that, right? So in terms of Loki, I've actually gotten to the point where I've cut the Collector entirely because he takes you off your Elsa game plan. It's like, oh, well, I have to play him in an off lane. What's the point of stacking him in my Angela lane? It actually sucks. And if I play him in an off lane, it means I don't activate Elsa until turn 5. That sucks. So I just cut the Collector for Shang-Chi at the suggestion of Tanjo, who is the current rank 1 player in Marvel Snap. And that's just where I'm at with it, where Elsa is just fundamentally stronger than any of the other stuff that anyone is trying to do. She is the ultimate mid-range core, and it's no surprise, actually, to me, that Legion is not seeing as much play anymore, because this is the exact kind of meta that makes Legion look embarrassing. This is the kind of meta that caused everyone to underrate Legion in the first place. Legion is good when playing 5-7 is not embarrassing, right? Right now, playing 5-7 is embarrassing. When you think about the amount of stats an Elsa deck gets for 5 energy, and then you try to play a 5-7, it's like, oh my god, that's the worst thing you've ever done. Because, like, basically the minimum amount of stats an Elsa deck gets for 5 energy is a 5-11 vision. Like, that is so much better than what you're doing there. The minimum amount of stats they get for that is a 5-11 vision, and most of the time they're getting something like, they're getting a Jeff buff and a Kitty buff in another lane, and it ends up getting completely ridiculous, and you end up, basically, the more embarrassing it is to spend 5 energy on a 7 power body, the worse Legion is, and it was very embarrassing to do that when he came out, thanks to Bounce, because Bounce was a similar style of deck with a lot of low-cost, high-power cards that were conditional. And then Bounce got nerfed, and we moved into a more mid-range meta where Legion is a phenomenal card. Elsa is a totally different type of broken. Like, Legion is just very good and context-dependent. Elsa is the best 2-cost card they've ever printed because her numbers are really, really big. She's not fundamentally broken in the way some other broken cards have been. You could fix her in an OTA, but the issue is number too big.
Yeah, she's not like Zabu kind of broken. Pre-nerf Zabu kind of broken was like you break the game because your energy cheat just like defies logic, right? Like logics of the game and like constraints of the game. But yeah, I just want to add one thing about Elsa, which is that I feel like you mentioned the whole vision point. Elsa vision has like, it's like the gold standard right now, because vision is just, firstly, it's a 5-8 on its own, which means it's decent. And the second thing is it moves, right? It fits the whole Jeff logic, which is like you buff, then you move, you buff, then you move. Like you can realistically expect, like on turn 5, most decks will like shift something out to play Vision in the Elsa lane or whatever, or like play like Vision somewhere to get it buffed by Elsa. It's like the gold standard play right now, and I think many decks are like developing the need to like play that style. I've even seen a ramp deck that had like Vision just to, yeah.
Right, and you can and you can argue that when you compare that, it's like, oh, 5-11 vision. Well, that would be a 5-10 Legion. The difference is the vision moves out. So it's actually like a 5-14. Yes. Like, it's actually more.
5-14.
Next up is Thanos, who is not dead, I guess. He's back. Yeah. I actually had him as the second best deck in the game on my tier list. And he's very, very good. He's back again. I noticed a couple things in your latest list that I wanted to talk about. The first is you cut Mobius, and I worry about your Loki matchup in that eventuality. And the second is you play Echo to tech for the mirror, And one of our friends, Browday, has been banging on about server metas. And I do kind of wonder, is it just that the Asia server is so much more Thanos focused than the NA server? Because the server I play on, it's Loki all day. It's Elsa decks all day. Is there something going on in the metagame that makes that change make more sense for you?
Okay, so firstly, one thing that is uniform across every server for sure is that it's an Elsa deck meta. It's just which Elsa deck, that's for sure.
Okay.
And yeah, I think there's a server thing going on as well, because like my server, like I spent like 6 hours on stream previously, and I think like 70% of my matchups were literally Thanos mirrors, right? So that's why I think I leaned a little bit more into like attacking for the mirror and less for the Loki matchup. I feel okay. So basically, the Loki matchup versus Thanos, Mobius is good. It's like insanely good. Like, don't get me wrong there. But like the thing about Thanos as a deck right now is it's basically a Time Stone / Psylocke on 3 deck into
Yes.
Prof on 5 into 5 and then Alioth deck. It's the same thing. Like it's been like that way since W did his thing and popularized his version. Now it's just that you win with Alioth. So like at the end of the day, I feel like I tested without Mobius versus Loki and with Mobius versus Loki. It's like the difference is if you don't have the Time Stone or Psylocke on 3 regardless, you are still not catching up. Like you still have that blank like middle portion where they just put stuff into their Angela and like Loki, or like they play collector and like buff stuff. Like you still can't catch up even with Mobius if you don't have Time Stone or Psylocke. So I am like admittedly making my Loki matchup a bit worse to tag for the mirror. But at the end of the day, I think the biggest issue is that if you don't have Time Stone or Mind Stone on 1, Time Stone on 3, or Psylocke on 3, you're not gonna be able to catch up. And a little bit about Echo as well, which is in the mirror, it's not really meant to like YOLO snipe a Professor X that's played on the same turn as you with like initiative. I mean, sometimes that works, sometimes that happens, but a lot of the time it's like it isolates the lane, right? So the moment you have the Echo on the board, you know you're not gonna get Prof, you're not gonna get Dino. I think these two are like super important, which means you know which lanes to maybe Shang-Chi, which lanes to maybe put more stats which will get Prof. You know, it's just like a deterrent for the lane, and it costs 1. Like if Echo costs anything more than 1, it is not even in my considerations.
Yeah.
It's more of because it fits very nicely into that whole like Psylocke plus Echo, final turn, Blue Marble plus Echo, Dino plus Echo. You know, the whole 5+1, 2+1 on turn 3 thing. Yeah, it just fits. That's why Echo is even a consideration. It's still the worst card in the deck, but like, you know, it's just something that you put in for the Thanos deck mirror.
Well, one of the things I was kind of thinking about is like, there's a new 1-cost card coming out that might fit in that slot.
Oh,
It's
yes.
something I was kicking around there. We'll get to her in a little bit. Let's talk about the dynamics of the metagame, because one of the major things that I've noticed is that after the Alioth nerf, it's a lot safer for people to try to swing the game on turn 6 with cards like Shang-Chi, cards like Rogue. I'm seeing a lot more of the reactive tech cards re-enter the metagame. I've even seen people, being like, all right, we got to be a Darkhawk meta again. And I don't think that one plays, because every time I've seen a Darkhawk deck, it ends up being better if I just put Elsa in it, which makes it a bad Elsa deck rather than anything unique to itself. But I do think that, there's some argument for tech cards being back. I have Rogue and Shang-Chi in my Loki deck. Like, that is I think, very common adaptation at this point. People are making their Angelas egregiously large, their Kitty Prides egregiously large, fights for losing priority rather than fights for gaining priority. And I almost start to see what they were aiming at when they released Alioth, which is like, all right, we want something to reward you for gaining priority. And I almost wonder if it's not a little bit too weak right now, because now it's all let's throw priority again. People are playing Sarah again, for God's sake. Like that is crazy to me. So what are your thoughts on the tech cards in the metagame coming back into vogue after the Alioth changes?
Yeah, I actually think I like where this is going when it comes to like old tech cards becoming relevant again, because Alioth is less popular and less potent. On that note, you mentioned Rogue and Shang-Chi. There's been such a serious uptick in Shang-Chi in like all my games. There's so much Shang running around right now. Like there used to be a time like literally 1.5 weeks ago whereby you never went like, oh, I need to play around Shang. Like no one really thought about playing around Shang, right? Everyone was like trying to be like ahead to play around Alioth. Now, like you said, people actually want to play from behind, which is like a thing as well.
People were
I also want
cutting
to say
armor from Shuri.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
what?
they're cutting armor for
What
Shuri.
are we doing? Continue.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I just like that was the craziest thing I've ever heard.
The rogue one is interesting as well because there was never a time like in the last month I was like, all right, I need to play around rogue. I need to play around rogue, like in closed deck list or whatever. Like, I need to actively play around rogue. But like now I actually need to actively play around rogue, right? Like when I play a dino on the board right now in Thanos, which is a bit annoying because like now a dino dies to everything.
Yeah.
It dies to Shang, it dies to rogue, it dies to it dies to everything because like now there is rogue. Like I play bounce with Iron Man, right? And even now I don't dare to play Iron Man on turn 5. Like I used to do it and then like spam all my stats on turn 6. But like now playing Iron Man on turn 5 is like losing the lane. So yeah, Rogue is back. Shang is back. I'm not sure what else, but like there's a lot of tech cards that are around right now. Because of like the resurgence, the nerf to the Alioth. Yeah.
You just got my brain moving a little bit. What if we cut
Yeah.
Dino?
Yeah, no, that I was actually thinking of doing that.
Like, what if we cut Dino for like Iron Lad or Chavez or something? What if we just get him out of here? So because he's just gonna die all the time.
But the funny thing is, if you cut Dino and I keep thinking of the Thanos mirror because that's like super relevant to me. Like the moment I cut Dino and like if they have Dino on turn 6 instead, that's like one huge power spike that I can't actually deal with if I don't echo snipe. But like, you know,
what about because like what I really want to do is I want to cut Dino for a second vision. Like that's actually the card I want to play. Like, I just want visions too. Like
yeah, no, okay, so the idea that I was thinking of was like second vision, the closest thing you got to in terms of stats is like Legion. It's not even weird, right? Like if you think about it, because Thanos ramps out. I mean, it ramps out a 4, a 5 on 4, right? A 5 cost on 4. So like there is a chance that the Legion is relevant. I haven't tried it yet, but like something I was thinking about.
It's definitely something that's entered my mind too. Is like this Dino just dies to everything. But on the other hand, it's so big.
Playing Black Bolt stature in this economy, so like
yes. Finally, a sad segment. Let's everyone bow your heads as we talk about the decks that used to be good, the decks that are no longer good, the decks that Loki killed, the decks that Elsa killed, the meta of 2 months ago. We bow our heads and we say, we miss you, Brood Abs, we miss you, Move, we miss when you were the kind of thing that was the best deck in the game and not Omega Scam. So
okay, I just want to say I'm so glad Brood Apps is gone though. I do not miss Brood Apps at all. That was not my thing. That was not it. When the whole world was playing 28 stats on turn 4 versus me, I felt so hopeless. But anyway,
I just feel like I'm glad there was a deck like that, right? Like obviously it sucked that it like once in a while though, like it was fine, right? Like I'm glad there was a deck where it was just like, look, I don't care how good you are at this game. I'm gonna just do this. Like I don't care at all.
That one week when Brood Apps was like top, right? My win rate was at the lowest ever in my Marvel Snap life. Like I actually have the numbers. It's crazy, man. Like, all right, but anyway, yeah, I just wanna also say that like the reason why these decks are like pushed out of the game also is because like we mentioned above, like in the previous points, the better Elsa decks are just the better Elsa decks. These are basically a bit lesser Elsa decks, right? Like Brood Apps doesn't really abuse the Elsa mechanic as well. Like you get like 2 buffs, I would say. 2 buffs is good in the Brood Apps deck. And in Silk Move, yeah, of course you get a lot of buffs, but Silk Move is like, how should I put it? It's just a bit fair, you know? If it's a little bit fair compared to like all the Loki generation stat stuff that you can do. It's like it doesn't it's very weird to say, but Silk Move doesn't abuse the Elsa mechanic like that well, which is interesting considering you're playing Nightcrawler Jeff as well.
You don't run enough ones. Like that's actually what it is. Like you don't run enough ones. The advantage the Loki deck has is not just that it has Loki, it's that Loki allows it to play only cards that cost 3 or less, basically, right? It's 3 or less and then Shang-Chi, right? And then that is your entire deck, and that means you have much more dynamic ability to get Elsa buffs because you can play a 1-drop, a 2-drop, and then a 2+1, where that 1 is Kitty, right? And so like your best draws are almost always like 1-drop Elsa, Kitty Jeff gets the buff, then you keep playing the Kitty there, and then you go absolutely berserk, right? And that's what your best draws look like, and Move doesn't really have the ability to do that with any kind of reliability. They can do it, but the only one they can play there is Nightcrawler, really.
Yep.
And they end up sacrificing the ability to play Kitty because they end up playing things like Doctor Doom or Alioth, which means you don't want to be playing Kitty in your deck. There's like, it's not just that you lose the heads up because the card Loki exists. It's also that the other deck is better at doing the Elsa stuff because building for Loki leads you to that point. Before the show started, Lamby indicated he has some insights on top ladder play. Lamby, what are your insights on top ladder play?
So this is the weirdest thing for me to say because I never actually ever played like the leaderboards ever since Conquest came out. Like I think I've like hardly played ladder since Conquest came out. But this month I have decided to try to go for that top 10 finish of sorts. So I played a lot of ladder in the last 1 week, and I realized this is very interesting because I learned a few things from ladder, which I never expected to actually learn from ladder. So one of the things that I learned from ladder is, okay, so this started when I started casting games of Everzord, one of the top ladder players in the game. I realized ladder top players, they tend to subconsciously stay in their games more. I realized this, like even when they play Conquest, because they will try to win in absurd scenarios very often. Because like if not, yeah, I noticed this, like, Everzord's stay rate in the Loki mirrors is crazy high. Like, he will go for that, I will win left by 1, I will win right by 2, that kind of, like, plays. And, like, I feel like a lot of ladder players, they are very used to, like, thinking of, like, trying to win that obscure scenario because, like, there's a lot of cubes on the line, right? Like, so
It's old card game, right? Like, it's how you, it's playing to your outs, but, like, it's a different card game. You have to think about, like, the EV of that now. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And a lot of ladder players, I realize also, they stay for 2 a lot because like they need to see the deck, right? They need to see what's going on. So like whether you have the best hand or just a slightly above average hand, a lot of ladder players stay for like 2 cubes a lot, which is very interesting because like obviously in Conquest you don't have to if you know the deck type, but on ladder you almost always never know unless it's someone you play against like 10 times, right? So also on that note, there is actually like meta gaming versus like the top ladder players because you know what they play, right? Like you can literally say, oh, this top 10 player always has Shang in his deck. This top 10 player is always playing Cerebro, for example. There are those people, you know, like you can actually meta game in the top ladder. So these are some of my insights that I've learned, which actually, weirdly enough, I did think that ladder was going to be completely boring for me, but it's actually a bit enticing because I'm like still learning new things about players and like things that I can like do in ladder to get an edge as well.
Personally, I've been surprised you stayed in Conquest as long as you have, because I have a very strong suspicion that the best players in the game are playing ladder right now. Like when I play ladder, and then when I go play Conquest, it's just 2 completely different types of players, like completely different. And so it's always surprised me that you've been like, no, I got this. I'm going to play Conquest, right? Because I feel like you are right at home here. Like this is where you're supposed to be. Like this is where the people are really pushing you. And I definitely feel pushed on ladder for sure. You're going for top 10. I'm aiming to finish at 69, which means I can't get too far ahead of that. I think I ended yesterday a little too far up. So I need to have like a midday. I don't want to have a midday
he's
though.
Overperforming, guys. He's overperforming.
I don't want to have a midday. I ended up probably a couple SP too high. Like I maybe the strat is to overshoot and then get back to it. I don't really know, but I ended up a little too high, and hopefully I'll be able to push it back down because I want that 69 finish. That is my goal. I want to finish 69 if I can. That should always be your goal when involved in a 69, actually. I'm going to get demonetized.
I don't know, man.
So, next up is Nico Minoru, the newest card that is going to come out in Marvel Snap. She has 2 power, costs 1, and has 7 different abilities. She changes between each of these abilities every time she is in your hands. So you get to basically cast her as a different version of her depending on what you get in your hand. So let's go over what those abilities are. First up is on reveal, after you play your next card, it becomes a demon. So it turns into a 1/6. Next up, on reveal, after you play your next card, destroy it and draw 2 cards. Then, on reveal, after you play your next card, move it 1 location to the right. Then, after you play your next card, give it +2 power. So this one effectively just makes her a 1/4. And then, after you play your next card, replace that card's location. One note here is that if you play that card on Nowhere, this is actually a way of getting rid of Nowhere. We don't currently
crazy.
have ways of that outside of Legion. So this actually should work on Nowhere. So that's crazy. As long as you get the Nico effect off of Nowhere, the card itself, if you play it onto Nowhere, should get rid of Nowhere. On a reveal, after you play a new card, your next card, add a copy of it to your hand is her next ability. And then after you play your next card, double this card's power. Another ability that just kind of makes her a 1/4. She is perhaps the most confusing card in Marvel Snap. I tend to look at her and say, all right, the power level on this is very high. The draw 2 is very good. The turn into a demon is quite powerful. And I see sort of 2 homes for her. The first one I want to play her in is Phoenix Force, because obviously that deck drawing 2 and destroying something is kind of unbelievable. And the next place I want to play her is Thanos, because Thanos has a ton of fodder to make sure you are triggering the thing that you want to trigger with her. And also a ton of ability to like spin its wheels until you can actually play the Nico spell that you want. You can wait on getting the one that you want. Obviously, drawing 2 cards, very, very good. Only destroying a stone for that, very, very good. So those are the 2 things that I think I want to try with Nico. Where are you at with Nico generally and in specific?
Right, I want to ask one question first so that I can answer this properly, which is, do the Nico spells rotate in random order? And
I believe so.
Can they rotate back to the same one again? Like,
that's a great question. I don't know. If it's anything like the token
idea,
shop, then it would be no, right? It's random, but then it's removed would be my guess. But that seems to be how they handle this kind of stuff. I don't actually know, though. Maybe it's pure random. I have no idea.
Okay. Yeah, but okay, so regardless of that, I feel like Nico has like superbly high potential for me personally. Because like my favorite cards in the game, like even after the nerf, is Snowguard and Legion. Why? Because they are 2-box cards, right? They have options. They let you do things in not a standard way. With Nico, it's a little bit better and worse at the same time. Your opponent also cannot plan for what the Nico will do, and you also cannot plan for what the Nico will do. So I feel like decks that use the Nico effect best are those that, like, I think you mentioned one really good one, which is Thanos, that don't mind not actually playing her on curve. Like, don't mind even not playing her if they don't have to play her, you know, because Thanos has like options and a lot of different like stones and other stuff to play. So I feel like Nico works best as a like tech piece or like pinch hitter or like something that can like be played if you need to, but if you don't play her, your deck doesn't die. So I think that's one thing that's really important. So to mitigate RNG as well. So in Thanos, it's perfect. In Bounce is very interesting as well, because firstly, in Bounce, well, I mean, it's a 1 cost. When you think of 1 cost, you think of Bounce, like, and you think of all the little cheap cards that can be played to abuse her draw 2 effect as well. And Bounce has currently, like, in the main build of it, has no location changer card. So having like an inbuilt location changer card in Bounce is very important. And one more thing to note is, this one is probably like the least popular effect in my opinion, which is the when you play a card, move it. Is it move her out or move something out of the location?
It moves the other card. It's like Iron Fist.
Right. Moves the other card out of the location. So this also works with Elsa. Like I'm pretty sure you can buff the thing and then move it out. It's another low cost Elsa card. So if it's in Loki as well, like as an option, like drawing 2 cards in Loki is also mad, right? Like it works. So Nico fits very well in the decks that are already very good, like in my opinion. So I think she will literally. I think the number 1 question for me when Nico releases is very simple. It's not to make the Nico deck. It's to figure out what's the worst card in the existing decks and put Nico in.
Well, we know what the worst card in Thanos is, baby. We know what the worst card in Thanos is. We can get her out of here.
Is yours Dino or Echo? It's Echo, right?
I was gonna say
I'm
it's
cutting
Echo.
my Echo.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I actually like a moron. I still run Daredevil. I know it's training wheels, but I think Daredevil's actually good in that deck. I honest to God, I think the ability to set up full information into a turn 6 Alioth is absurd. Like, actually knowing everything into turn 6 Alioth is as good as Daredevil has ever been. It's you can actually set up a 100% lock on the game. And they have no idea. And it's like, that's crazy.
I'm not a Daredevil fan, but I can completely agree with you on that one as well. Like having perfect information into perfect lockout with Alioth is like, I mean, it's not just Alioth, right? Do you have the progression of Daredevil on the board into Prof Alioth, right?
Yes,
that is like gross. very valid progression. So yeah, something to really consider there. Yeah.
It also makes you a little less reliant on the turn 3 time stone stuff, because you can still do like these perfect setup type games where like if you don't have a turn 3 time zone. I only noticed this because like when I played against the Thanos deck as Loki, Daredevil was the scariest card to see. It was absolutely terrifying to have a Daredevil be played against me. It was just like, oh my God, I don't know how to beat that, because it just gives them so many options. And all their 5s are so different. And that's what Thanos really lives on, is that all their 5s just do such completely different things. And you can't really pick one to play around, but they know perfectly how to play around you because of Daredevil. It's powerful.
Yeah, I agree. Also, on a final note for Nico and Minoru, I feel like people are thinking that she's okay. So one thing I hear very often about Nico Minoru is that my chat, they come in and like, oh, Nico Minoru is gonna be so much RNG, blah 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 blah. It's actually not as much RNG as you think, like honestly.
Yeah.
It's really very curated RNG in my opinion, because like at the end of the day, if you're, like I said earlier, if you're building a deck that relies on her to win, I don't think that's the way you should go about it. That's probably like, yeah, a lot of RNG. But if you're building a deck that like can win with her and doesn't mind her other effects, yeah, then I think she's actually perfectly fine.
Yeah, the fact that it works with Elsa is just like, oh my God, okay, we're putting this in Thanos. All right, we're putting it in Thanos. I already was gonna do that, but now it's like, okay, we're really doing that. Finally, it's been 1 year of Snap, and it's been a crazy year for both of us. So I guess I just wanted to express some gratitude, because a year ago was when I first started taking off as a streamer. I was streaming in the beta to 10 viewers back when, I mean, I have people who were there. Remember when Talkwin was the biggest streamer in Marvel Snap, man. Like that's a name that I haven't heard in a very long time. And I really started taking off after global release because I was the highest MMR player at the time. And I guess maybe I'll also say because maybe people like me. That's still kind of an open question. But I remember October 18th last year, and I streamed every day that month. For the next 30 days, I streamed 4 hours every day. And that is why I'm here, I think, at this point. Why you're watching this is because of the work, the foundations laid there. And it has been an amazing journey, and I'm incredibly grateful. And the year has gone by so fast that it honestly doesn't even feel real at this point. Like, it's been a year that feels just crazy to me. And I am so grateful for everyone who supports me. And of course, for my friend Lamby series.
All right, honestly, mine is also quite like touching per se, like a touching story. So basically what happened to me was in January, I also have the date, January 21st this year. The game that used to provide me sustainability was not sustainable anymore, and I had two options, right? So one option was to not do gaming, which I hated, and one option was to continue doing gaming, which I love. So I decided to take this leap of faith. I went into Snap, which I was already playing very casually, like last year, like you said, October when Global was launched. So I played very casually in Snap. January this year, I got into Snap, started streaming it to like not that many people, because it was like a total brand switch of sorts. So like it was totally new and fresh to me. What happened was February, which is interesting because now I'm doing this with KM, right? In February, KM raided me, and then we started like this like friendship and like talking with each other thing going on, and like then also in February, Thanos became a thing. So Thanos and then KM raiding me, and then like all these things together started like propelling me in the right direction. People started to know me as the former pro player that came over to Hearthstone, and then I was also winning things at that point in time. So like I was defining metas, I was building decks, I was winning stuff, and then people knew that I had a history with card games, and like the stream started to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow and grow. And then we started like casting tournaments, now even organizing tournaments. The stream is still growing, and like I feel like at the end of the day, I want to say this is like very important to me because I'm very grateful to like the people that support my content. And I think very similarly to KM's content, but our content is not like the most like entertaining things in the world. It's more like winning content, and like
Hold
not
on.
everybody.
I'm entertaining as hell. All right.
Okay, I haven't hit the.
Don't you?
I haven't hit the point yet. Like both of us are like we are good at what we do. Like we provide quality, high level content, right? But we also have a personality. I was getting to that part. We provide high quality content and we have a personality. But this kind of like competitive content is like really something that we do well. And like I feel like it's not something that everyone likes. Not everybody likes competitive content only. Like at least for me personally, mine is like super hyper competitive content. And like I'm very glad that like there is actually a committee and like a group of people that like have supported me this whole time. Like there's more people that have been coming to my stream that have been turned from casual to slightly more competitive, which is what I really, really love. So yeah, I think just want to say thank you to everyone who has been here for me, for KM, for like the last 1 year. And like we are only gonna continue to get better, I believe. This is I'm very surprised personally that Marvel Snap is such a good game to stream. And apparently a lot of my friends think that it's a very viewer friendly game for a card game. Like specifically for a card game, Marvel Snap is actually quite viewer friendly and exciting to watch, which is something that I believe is great for the game and great for us as streamers.
It definitely is. So shout out to the dev team. I don't know. Like I never saw myself doing this. So like
Same.
you've done this before though. You've been a professional gamer before.
Yeah.
I never
But
I
like
never saw myself doing it.
being a straight up only content creator, like I mean, because Marvel Snap doesn't have like an official competitive scene yet,
Yeah.
right? So I didn't think I could actually be happy doing this without like competing full time. But the thing is, I'm actually happier now than doing like my previous like game. I'll be completely frank. Like I'm like a lot happier now because like the community we've built, like this Marvel Snap community in general, I think it's like the most healthy community I've been in like in terms of games in like a long time. So like I'm glad. Like I'm actually in a very happy place right now, despite streaming at like the worst timings in like Asian time zones ever. But still, I enjoy what I'm doing right now. So
That's good. That's good. That's awesome, man. That's super dope. And yeah, I'll RIP to your sleep schedule. I send my
eh,
condolences to that. As always, for Lamby series, I've been Cam Best. It's been a pleasure. We'll catch you on the revamped 8 cubes next time we do it. Catch on Lamby's channel. I'm really beefing this outro, but we're just pushing straight through it. Timings are gonna be the exact same. Lamby's gonna get the midweek one. I'm gonna get the end of week one, and we're gonna keep pushing. Thank you so much for watching.